point today, point number 106. فلو اجتمع الخلق كلهم على شيء كتبه الله تعالى فيه أنه كائن ليجعلوه غير كائن لم يقدروا عليه ولو اجتمعوا كلهم على شيء لم يكتبه الله تعالى فيه ليجعلوه كائنا لم يقدروا عليه. At-Tahawi rahimahullah said, so if the whole of the creation were to gather together regarding something which Allah the Most High had written in it that it was going to occur, and they all tried to stop it from happening, then they would not be able to do that. And if they all gathered together concerning something which Allah the Most High did not write in it to try and make it happen, then they would not be able to do that. Shaykh al-Fawzan, hafidhahullah, he said, Al-Kitaba, the writing which Allah the Most High wrote in the preserved tablet, in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, is such that no one has the ability to change it. So if the whole of the creation gathered together to change something which Allah has written, they would not be able to do so. And if they all gathered together to produce something which Allah did not write in the preserved tablet, they could not produce it. Then he mentions the evidence, or an evidence for that, just as occurs in the hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to him, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْخَلْقَ لَوْ اجْتَمَعُوا عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَنْفَعُوكَ بِشَيْءٍ لَمْ يَنْفَعُوكَ إِلَّا بِشَيْءٍ قَدْ كَتَبَهُ اللَّهُ لَكَ وَلَوْ اجْتَمَعُوا عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَضُرُّوكَ بِشَيْءٍ لَمْ يَضُرُّوكَ إِلَّا بِشَيْءٍ قَدْ كَتَبَهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ رفعت الأقلام وجفت الصحف. The hadith reported by Tirmidhi and Ahmad and Al-Hakim and declared Sahih, authentic by Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah. The hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Ibn Abbas, obviously as part of a longer hadith. He began it by saying, "O young man, let me teach you some words." The hadith. So this part of it that the Shaykh mentioned here is the end part of the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, and know that if the whole of the creation were to gather together to benefit you with something, they could not benefit you with anything except something which Allah had already written for you. And if they were to gather together to harm you with something, they could not harm you except with something which Allah had already written upon you. The pens have been raised and the scrolls have dried. The pens have been raised and the scrolls or pages have dried. Shaykh al-Fawzan said, so there is no altering and no changing that which Allah the Majestic and Most High wrote down in the preserved tablet, Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz. And with regard to the next point, Point number 107, جف القلم بما هو كائن إلى يوم القيامة وما أخطأ العبد لم يكن ليصيبه وما أصابه لم يكن ليخطئه. He said, the pen has run dry, having written down whatever will occur until the day of resurrection. And whatever the servant misses out on, then it was never going to come to him. And whatever strikes him, then it was never going to miss him. Shaykh al-Fawzan said, this is the meaning of iman, of having true faith in al-Qadar wal-Qadar. This has been summarized in this point number 107. This is the meaning of having iman, of having true faith in the preordainment and the pre-decree. That you know that nothing befalls you, nothing happens to you, except that which Allah has written for you. And that whatever strikes you could not have missed you. And whatever missed you was never going to befall you. So in other words, the Shaykh defines, he said that point number 107, that is what it means to have iman in pre-decree. And then he puts it another way, summarizes it a different way, saying that you know that nothing befalls you except something which Allah has written for you. And that whatever strikes you could not have missed you. And that whatever misses you was never going to come to you. Then Shaykh Fawzan said, so if a calamity strikes you, a musibah, if a calamity strikes you, something which is disagreeable to you, then you know that this was written in the preserved tablet, in Allah al-Mahfuz. And what you do, if you're struck with a calamity, this is what you have to know. You have to know that it was something that was written in the preserved tablet. And it was bound to happen. So therefore you are consoled by that and held back from becoming vexed and becoming angry. And you have iman, you have true faith in Allah, the Mighty and Majestic. So the Shaykh there mentions what to do, what's the remedy if a disaster strikes you, what you need to know when that happens. And that the result of knowing that will be that you're consoled by that and held back from becoming vexed and becoming angry. And that you will have, therefore you'll be having true faith in Allah. Then he said, and whatever misses you was not going to come to you. So the first case, the first matter is with regard to calamities which strikes you, something which hits you, strikes you. That you know that was something that was bound to occur, Allah had already written it upon you. Then the second matter here, and whatever misses you was not going to come to you, no matter how eagerly you sought after it, even if you exerted yourself to the full, then you were still not going to attain it. So if you carry out the means and you expend every effort and you still do not attain it, then in that case you surrender and you truly believe in preordainment and pre-decree. Al-Qadar wal-Qadar. So you've tried with the means, it didn't happen. You tried your best, it didn't happen. Then, as the Shaykh said, in that case, you surrender and submit and truly believe in preordainment and pre-decree. Then he said, and you do not become annoyed and you don't start having misgivings, bad thoughts and anxiety. You don't have that. He said, as the Prophet ﷺ said, احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجزن فإن أصابك شيء فلا تقل لو أني فعلت كذا وكذا لكان كذا وكذا ولكن قل قدر الله وما شاء فعل فإن لو تفتح عمل الشيطان. He said, because the Prophet ﷺ said, eagerly strive for that which can benefit you and seek the aid of Allah, and do not be hopeless. Don't be hopeless or helpless. And if something befalls you, then do not say, if only I had done such and such, then such and such would have happened. But rather, instead, say, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. Instead of that, you should say, it is just as Allah decreed, and whatever He wished, He did. Because saying, if only, opens up the actions of Satan. In a footnote, they mention this hadith is reported by Muslim, and you'll find it there towards the end of Sahih Muslim in the book of Qadar, the book of pre-decree, a whole book which Muslim includes. And it's from a hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. So here we see in these last two sections, Shaykh al-Fawzan has mentioned both cases. What to do if a calamity, something hits you, something disagreeable strikes you, it happens to you, what you should do. And then here just now, if you miss out on something you want, it doesn't happen to you. And the Shaykh said, when you know this, then the affair becomes easier for you, and you do not become vexed. You don't become cross and upset, and you don't become regretful. For the affairs are in His hand, He, the one free of all imperfections. He said, yes, you should carry out the necessary means and eagerly seek to do that which will benefit you. However, the results are from Allah, the Mighty and Majestic. And you do not know what is the best choice. So Allah, the Mighty and Majestic, does not give you that thing. And He explains the reason. Because if you were to attain that thing, it would bring harm to you. So Allah knows and you do not know. So it is upon you to be satisfied with the preordainment and pre-decree of Allah. So in other words, you make the necessary striving, that's upon you. Use them, as he said, take the necessary means and eagerly strive for that which can benefit you. And the results come from Allah. And if He withholds something from you, you don't get it, then it's because it's something that Allah knows, that you don't know, but Allah knows it will cause harm to you. So therefore you should be satisfied with that, with the decree of Allah and His preordainment. Then the Shaykh said, and in the noble Qur'an, Allah says to His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, قُلْ لَنْ يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا هُوَ مَوْلَانَا وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th surah, ayah 51. With the explanation, say, nothing will befall us, nothing will happen to us, except for what Allah has written for us. He is our guardian Lord, and upon Allah let the believers place their reliance, their tawakkul. He mentions a second ayah. He said, and He says, refuting the unbelievers when they said about those who were killed on the day of Uhud. And obviously the battle of Uhud, with regard to those Muslims who died on the day of Uhud, who were martyred on the day of Uhud. After that happened, some of the unbelievers started saying things. So the Shaykh said, so Allah refuted them. He refuted what they said. He says, refuting the unbelievers when they said about those who were killed on the day of Uhud, that they said, لَوْ كَانُوا عِنْدَنَا مَا مَاتُوا وَمَا قُتِلُوا. Surah Ali Imran, the 3rd surah, ayah 156. So Allah quotes what the unbelievers said about that. They said, if they had stayed with us, they would not have died and they would not have been killed. That's what the unbelievers said about the the Muslims who died at Uhud. If they had stayed back with us and not gone to the battle, they wouldn't have died. They wouldn't have been killed. The Shaykh said, so Allah the Mighty and Majestic said, قُلْ لَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ لَبَرَزَ الَّذِينَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَتْلُ إِلَى مَضَاجِئِهِمْ. Surah Ali Imran, ayah 154. With the explanation, say, even if you had remained in your homes, then those for whom death was written would certainly have gone out to their places of death. Shaykh Al-Fawzan said, so whatever is written for a person must occur with him. Even if he is on his guard and seeks shelter in a secure place, and he takes whatever precautions he can, then that will not defend him against the preordainment and pre-decree of Allah. He said, He the Most High said, أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِكْكُمُ الْمَوْتِ وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Surah An-Nisa, the 4th surah, ayah 78. With the explanation, wherever you are, then death will reach you, even if you are within strong fortresses. And with regard to the next point, point number 108, still on the topic of